welcome to Mind Matters and Mischief. Again, the podcast where we dive into the matters of the mind, everything from mental health, self-care, mental illness, growth mindset, mental wellness, and self-improvement. But we always keep a life vest made of humor handy. I'm your host, Dr. Jim Shoopack. We're here to make sense of the madness and find the fun in the functional. Make sure to hug your cat, dog, guinea pig, or salamander for me. Sit down, relax, and welcome to the show. Well, today's episode is called Unhappy Holidays. It's okay to feel grinchy. The world outside is twinkling. It's full of joy and cheer. I'm sure many of you know what I'm talking about. But what if your heart feels heavy and the tinsel feels just a little bit sharp? Or maybe in some cases, very sharp. You're not alone in feeling that way. It's perfectly okay to feel a little grinchy when you're navigating the holidays after a profound loss. This episode of Mind Matters and Mischief is your permission slip to be exactly where you are. We'll share practical tools for managing expectations, honoring your loved one or loved ones, and even finding small moments of peace amongst the pain. Again, welcome to Mind Matters and Mischief. I'm Dr. Jim Shoopack, and today is a pretty heavy episode. I mean, I've unfortunately gone through it myself, and I'm sure many of you out there probably have as well. So I'm hoping any suggestions, any advice I could give you, hopefully you can take it to heart. It comes, unfortunately, from experience. It's to go from my own experience and hopefully give you some suggestions that might work for you in your journey of overcoming loss of a loved one. That loved one might be a human being. It might be a furry pet. For me, I have 3 dogs and we used to have 4 cats, but I know it definitely was a challenge when my cats died, and right now my dogs are getting older. So it's one thing that I have to brace myself for. But either way, grief is messy. That's one thing we need to realize. It's not linear. And as Megan Devine wisely says, grief does not follow a neat timeline. That's what my therapist told me, especially not for the holidays. We're talking about how to manage a season that emphasizes joy when you feel a profound absence. We're going to approach this with compassion, offering practical strategies to help you navigate these weeks with as much equanimity as possible. And stick around for our mischief segment, where we'll lean into the idea that laughter can exist alongside the sadness. Well, let's dive into some practical tools. The first step is really acknowledging your feelings. Don't hide from them. That's one thing I tried to do when my brother died. The first holiday, the first birthday of his, the first birthday of mine, of family members, trying to hide from them, and it just, I think, causes more trauma. I want to say even almost lean into your feelings. Like, accept them for being what they are. Acknowledge your feelings. Because suppressing them or trying to push them aside can actually worsen the suffering that you feel emotionally. So suggestion would be give your grief a name, a home, even during the holidays. More so a home than a name, but a home. And 3 key strategies that I suggest. First one is be the CEO of your holidays. Choose, communicate, and compromise. First thing, choose. Decide which events that you can handle. You don't have to attend every party. Remind yourself that this year is different, and it could be a loved one who's passed away a couple years ago. Again, grief is not linear, so as a result, if there's certain things that remind you that loved one and you need to take a break, that is okay. Do not think that you have to attend everything. Communicate. Talk to a trusted family member and also friends about your needs. Let them know you might have to leave early from an event or that you prefer not to discuss certain topics. That is okay. Creating those boundaries are so important. That's one thing that when my brother died, when Bob died, I remember telling people, please don't ask me how I'm doing, because the answer is going to be things suck. I would use far worse words, but I want this to be a rated PG show. So as a result, I would just say, we'll go with that. And I know the intent was well centered. It was, from the good of the heart. But it's just one thing I did not want to hear, because I was reliving that trauma over and over and over again. And, slowly but surely you get over that bridge. And it's difficult, and you've made so much progress, even if it's just taking a toe in the right direction, that you don't want to go back. So I totally get that. compromise. For example, if your loved one, the loved one who's passed on, was the primary cook, maybe share the responsibility amongst others in the family or friends. Modify the menu or switch to a potluck. Flexibility is the key here. Another thing is honoring your loved one, creating space for connection. One thing to consider is a memory table or candle. And I mean, in Latin America, they do a lot of this around Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, with All Saints Day and All Souls Day. And they'll have like a table of ofrendas and stuff like that, and they'll have pictures of the loved one or loved ones who have passed on. But it doesn't have to be like anything elaborate, anything extravagant, but you have a small private space in your house. It could have a photo, maybe an item from that person, special candle to light in their honor and their memory. In fact, when my brother died again, the language department where I teach, they had given us is beautiful. It's an electric sort of device, we'll call it that. It just lights up, but it says like in memory of Robert Shoopack, and it very touching. I mean, I gave it. It was given to me. I gave it to my parents because I felt they should have it. But they light it up pretty much every night, and it's just really nice. It was a beautiful, beautiful gift. But like just having something like that, a cherished item for me. My grandma was one of my favorite people. My grandpa too, and they had this statue of the Blessed Mother, otherwise known as Mary, Jesus' mom, and she was holding Jesus, looking at him with such affection and just giving him a kiss on the cheek. And for the longest time, I loved that statue. And knowing my grandparents, if I would say something, they're like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love that statue, the Blessed Mother with baby Jesus. My grandma would have taken it and said, here, take it home. And I didn't feel right even saying that. And so, when they passed on, I said, really, the only thing I really want from my grandparents, if I could, would be that. And fortunately, my wife and I have it now in our house. So I'm honored to have that. And then we also have a picture of my great-grandmother, Minnie Shoopack, upstairs. Because when we were cleaning out at their house, we were able to do that. And we found a picture of her, so we kept it. Another thing is share stories. Instead of avoiding the topic, the elephant in the room, share the stories. Invite others to share a funny, favorite, funny, or heartwarming memory of your loved one that you have during a gathering. We would do that with my brother. We would do that with, like he introduced me to certain comedians, and I'm not gonna lie, it was maybe a little bit out of my comfort zone at first, but then he really got me into certain comedians. I'll remain nameless, but whenever I might watch them or see them on TV or something, he's the first one I think of. But there are some stories, even stories with mutual friends of ours, we might share. And even around the holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever, we'll continue to share stories, and it's just a cool way to bring memories to life. And one thing about Bob, about my brother, was there were other friends he had that we really didn't know about, and ironically enough, we have become friends with those friends over time, and it's really opened up new experiences. And it's kind of brought Bob back to life spiritually, symbolically almost, because we're learning new things about him. And it's pretty cool that way. So please don't hesitate when you're ready to lean in on some of those stories, because you might wind up finding yourself saying like, wow, I didn't know that. That's so cool. So just little things like that, and it can really go a long way. Another thing would be to donate or volunteer. Honor the values of that loved one who's passed on by donating to a charity that they loved, maybe volunteering your time, and that could provide a sense of meaning. That's one thing that I've always said. If it's one thing that I need to know about people, actually two things: how they treat animals and how they treat people who cannot pay them back. So that's really, if I know those two things about you, and both of them are positive, we're good. If I see one, it's like you have to pay me back for this. You have to pay me. And, there's certain people who weren't dealt the same deck of cards, and it's nobody's fault. I mean, you look at it, many of us are born in first world countries. Some of us were born in third world countries. In the way that the world works, there's a greater chance we could have been born in a third world country, not have a penny to our name. So I kind of look at it that way, and that comes from some of my service experiences abroad and in the United States. So I don't talk about those on another episode, but just donate. It could be to a pet shelter. It could be to something that they were very fond of. Just things like that. And it, like they say, the best way to receive is to give. So trust me, that energy, that karma, that it just by giving, that's one of the biggest things I can tell you. And that's just from my own experience. And it's just brought me through number barriers. Permission to bail. Self-care is not selfish. Let me repeat that. Self-care is not selfish. Now repeat it with me. I'll wait. Self-care is not selfish. Okay? So it is completely okay to leave an event if it becomes too overwhelming. Plan an exit strategy ahead of time, just in case. You might have to leave early, and that is okay. And that's where communication comes between you and the host, or you and the family, you and your friends. Practice small amounts of self-care. It could be a walk outside, just going for around the block, a warm shower, a few minutes of just quiet breathing, just mindfulness. Those are big. Now, before we move on to our mischief segment, I'm just going to take a little pause. 30-second pause. What I would like you to do is place your hand on your heart. Simply take 3 deep, mindful breaths. As you do that, you're going to feel the physical sensation of your breath as it flows in and out, in and out, allowing yourself a moment of calm amidst the chaos. Okay, so we're going to start right. Hold on, we're going to get our timer on. Okay, now, start now. So, halfway there. 5 seconds. All right, good job. Okay, now we're going to go into that mindful moment that went a little bit of levity. So humor, believe it or not, it can be a powerful tool for healing, for resilience. Even in deep grief, life is still absurdly human. And this week's mischief comes from my attempt at a mindful nature walk that happened, it was recently, I don't know, I think it was a couple years ago. Yeah. I remember it, but it not super well, but so just trying to be grounded, in the moment, breathing in crisp air in the winter. It has to be about 2-3 years ago. Yeah, I'd say about 2-3 years ago. Focusing on the crunch of the snow, maybe a little bit of the leaves that were still around, and it was right until I stepped into a snow-covered patch of dog poop. So much for mindfulness. I had to laugh because, I was a bit frustrated, so I had to laugh through the tears a bit. And it was messy, but while I remember that, grief is no joke, sometimes you just have to laugh at the ridiculousness of life's timing, and things like that. So to recap our main points for today, acknowledge your feelings. Be a savvy CEO of your holiday interactions by employing the 3 C's: choose, communicate, and compromise. And honor your loved ones in ways that feel right to you. You know your loved ones best. You know the best way to honor your loved ones. So that's what I want you to do. That's my suggestion for you, I guess I should say. And most importantly, give yourself grace. Give yourself space. If you need more support, send me a message, shoopackjim@gmail.com. And there are some grief resources like the Dougie Center, DOUGY Center for Children and Families, or you can find articles on coping at whatsyourgrief.com. So I would like to hear how you're navigating this season. So if you would share your honoring rituals or mischief stories on social media, just send them to me. Actually, that would be the best way, shoopackjim@gmail.com. So I just thank you for letting me be a companion on your journey today. Remember, there's no single right way to grieve. Always be kind to yourself. You can find this episode show on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, and I'm currently in the process of trying to get it on YouTube. So, we'll just go from there. But join us next week as we dive into a mischievous episode. Until then, be well and give yourself a gentle hug. Remember, for those of you struggling, you do matter. If you left this world too early, there would be people out there who would miss you. I would miss you. The trauma that I am still going through, as well as my family and friends, as a result of my brother Bob's death 4 years ago, it still haunts me. You matter. If you are navigating a tough time, please reach out to a trusted friend or family member. You can also reach out to the 988 Crisis Hotline and call or text them. I'm sending a cyber hug to you all, and make sure you hug those pets for me. God bless.